The morning sun shimmered across the glass towers of the city, spilling gold light into the office of Raymond Hale, one of the youngest millionaires in the state. His name graced the covers of business magazines. His empire stretched across continents, and yet, beneath the suits and stock numbers, Raymond was a man whose heart still remembered what it meant to have nothing. Raised in foster homes and forgotten by a system that treated him like paperwork, he had built his fortune with a promise to never let anyone under his care feel small, unseen, or disposable. But that morning, as he sat behind his oak desk scanning his employees' files, he noticed one missing name: Maria Alvarez. His quiet housemaid who had not shown up for 3 days straight. Normally, he wouldn't pry into personal matters. But Maria wasn't just another employee. She was gentle, humble, and had once stitched his torn cuff with hands trembling from exhaustion. She lived for her son, a small boy named Diego, who used to run around Raymond's garden with a laughter that somehow made the mansion feel alive. And now, silence. Concern turned into unease. Raymond tried calling, but the number was disconnected. He sent a driver to her small apartment, vacant. Her neighbors said they'd left in the middle of the night, with no luggage, no farewell. Something about it didn't sit right. Maria was poor, yes, but responsible. She never missed work. And she adored her job because it allowed her to buy Diego's school books. Raymond decided he'd look for her himself. Maybe it was guilt, after all. He had always meant to give her a raise. But business deals and deadlines had pushed kindness aside. He called his assistant, ordered the car, and drove toward the outskirts of the city, where the streets turned from clean marble to cracked dust, where children played barefoot among trash heaps, and where forgotten people built lives from what others threw away. It was there, in the sour stench of the old industrial dump, that Raymond saw something that made his chest tighten. A small boy, barefoot, covered in grime, was digging through a pile of waste, holding an old tin can like it was treasure. His eyes, wide, frightened, but unmistakably familiar, looked up when Raymond called his name softly, Diego. The boy froze, recognition flickering. Mr. Hale. His voice trembled, small and weak. "Where's your mother?" Raymond asked, stepping closer, his polished shoes sinking into mud and filth. Diego pointed behind a half-burned car. And there she was. Maria lay on a thin blanket spread across broken glass and rusted metal. Her clothes tattered, her hair tangled, her face pale as paper. She was alive, barely. When she saw Raymond, tears slipped down her cheeks before she even spoke. "Sir, you shouldn't have come." Raymond knelt beside her, brushing dirt from her face. "Maria, what happened?" She shook her head weakly, clutching Diego's hand. "They came for us, sir. The landlord. I owed 3 months' rent. He threw everything out. Said we were trash. I tried to find work, but they said no one wanted a maid with a child." Her voice cracked. "We came here because it's the only place no one chases you away." Raymond felt something twist deep in his chest: anger, shame, compassion, all tangled together. How could this happen under his nose? He had wealth enough to light up half the city. And yet one of his own, a woman who scrubbed his floors and smiled through exhaustion, had been sleeping in a dump. He lifted her gently, calling his driver, his voice firm but trembling. "Get the doctor. Now." Maria tried to protest, but Raymond silenced her with a quiet, "You've taken care of my home for years, Maria. Now it's my turn to take care of yours." Hours later, in a private hospital room overlooking the same skyline that once symbolized distance between them, Maria lay in clean sheets for the first time in days. Diego slept beside her, clutching a teddy bear Raymond had bought from the gift shop downstairs. The doctor said she was suffering from exhaustion and malnutrition. Nothing money couldn't fix, but everything poverty made impossible. When Maria woke, she found Raymond sitting by her bed, reading through documents. Why are you helping us? She asked softly, her eyes glistening. He looked up. Because no one helped me when I was your son's age, he said simply. And I swore that if I ever could, I'd never let another child feel forgotten. Tears welled in her eyes, but then guilt followed. Sir, I can't repay you, she began. You already have, he interrupted. You showed me something I'd forgotten, that money can build walls or open doors. I've been building walls for too long. Over the next few weeks, Maria recovered. Raymond made sure she and Diego were moved into one of his guest cottages. Close to his mansion but private enough for her dignity. He offered her a new role, not as a maid, but as the caretaker of his estate's community center he had long abandoned. She refused at first, feeling unworthy, but Raymond insisted. You deserve more than survival, Maria. You deserve a life. Slowly, the mansion changed. Where once silence ruled, now laughter echoed, Diego's laughter. Maria's soft singing as she helped plant flowers around the garden. And Raymond's rare smiles that seemed to return more often. But one evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, Maria came to him with a folder of old papers. I need to tell you something, she whispered. Inside were letters, torn, yellowed, but all addressed to one man. Raymond Hale. I wrote these years ago, she said, trembling. You don't know me, but I once worked in a factory you owned. Before your company automated everything. My husband died in that accident, the one the papers called an unfortunate mishap. They said the company settled. But I never got anything. I didn't blame you. You were so young, maybe you didn't even know. But when I took this job at your house, I recognized your name. I just wanted a chance to work, not revenge. Raymond's heart stopped. He remembered that factory, his first big deal. The one that skyrocketed his wealth. His investors had handled the legal fallout, assuring him everything was resolved. Now he realized it hadn't been. Not for her. Not for the child who lost a father because he was chasing profit. He stood in silence for a long moment, guilt crashing over him like waves. Finally, he said quietly, Maria, I can't undo what happened. But I can make sure you and Diego never suffer again because of it. He restructured part of his company in her husband's name, creating a fund for injured workers' families. He hired lawyers to review every forgotten claim. And when Maria tried to thank him, he stopped her. Don't thank me, he said softly. Thank the part of you that forgave me before I even knew I'd wronged you. Months passed. And their lives intertwined not by money or employment but by shared humanity. Diego began attending one of the best schools in the city under a scholarship. Raymond established. Maria became the head of a foundation helping other single mothers rebuild their lives. The mansion that once felt cold now felt alive with purpose. One morning, Raymond watched Diego ride his bicycle down the garden path. Laughter echoing in the wind. And he realized something profound. The empire he had built wasn't his greatest achievement. This, the family he never knew he needed, was. In an interview years later, when a journalist asked Raymond what changed him from a ruthless businessman into one of the country's most compassionate philanthropists, he smiled faintly and said, a maid and her son. They showed me that you can lose everything and still give the world love. They taught me that wealth means nothing if your heart is poor. And so the man who once lived in skyscrapers now spent his days visiting orphanages, community kitchens, and forgotten alleys, searching for people like Maria. For stories like Diego's. Because sometimes, the richest hearts are found among the broken. And sometimes, salvation comes not from gold or glass towers, but from a dump where a millionaire once knelt in the dirt and found his humanity again.